Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I had a subscriber ask a question which I'm going to flip in here for you guys. He basically wants to know, does he need to be in a calorie surplus to gain muscle while at 15 to 20% body fat? So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, let's do a little bit of crafting, and let's talk about this. Alright, this is one of those questions where everyone wants to have their cake and eat it too, and you know what, in some cases you can do that. What people need to remember though, first of all, when it comes to things like body fat, 15 to 20% body fat is considered perfectly healthy medically. I understand that some people who watch fitness on YouTube are into bodybuilding and they have bodybuilder ideas. You need to understand, bodybuilders, the majority, have serious body image issues, body dysmorphia, etc. This idea that 15 to 20% body fat is like out of shape is actually a mental issue. Go talk to a mental health professional if you really believe that and truly believe that, because it's just not true. Now, 15 to 20% does give a fair amount of padding though, and that's the interesting point. That will make recomposition slightly easier, because isn't that what we're talking about here? When you're talking about gaining muscle without a calorie surplus, that means you're basically maintaining your body weight. Well, if you're gaining muscle while maintaining the same body weight, you have to lose body fat. Therefore, we are seeing a shift in body composition. Shifts in body composition work on a sliding scale, all right, until drugs come into the mix. And even then, you know, when drugs are in the mix, there's a sliding scale. There's a sliding scale of drugs also. How much are they using? How big are they versus how much are they using? What are they using? What's their dosage and stack look like? There's a sliding scale there. But recomposition works on a sliding scale. The number one most important factor up front. How long have you been training? How much muscle have you gained as a result of your training? Those are pretty similar things. They're not quite the same thing, because some people can train inefficiently and gain less muscle, and therefore making muscle easier for them to gain if they've been training X number of months or years. But that's a very, very big factor, because simply put, the shorter time period you have been training, the less serious training experience you have, obviously the easier it is to gain muscle, because muscle mass gains don't work on a linear scale. They work on a diminished return scale. If people don't know what that means, you can look that term up. But yeah, they work on an inverse scale. So every period of time, the amount of muscle that you gain training with X amount of hardness and work and everything, you can expect to gain half that amount again with the next segment of time. Meaning you've been training, you gained X amount of muscle in 6 months training, you know, with the best efficiency that you could. The 6 months after that, you're probably going to gain half of what you gained there. The next 6 months after that, you're probably only going to gain at best half of what you gained in the other 6 months. It's going to work on diminished returns. That's just the reality of it. That's the truth of it. That works for both muscle and strength. So obviously, it's easier to gain muscle the less experience you have. Therefore, recomposition is easier because you respond more to training. You gain twice as much muscle from every training session if you've been training half as long. Well, stimulating more muscle growth means it's just easier. Number two, how much body fat do you have? That's a big, big factor. Because simply put, gaining muscle requires energy, all right? You have to get calories from somewhere. You have to have a calorie surplus to build new tissue. And I think everyone understands that. However, that calorie surplus doesn't have to be at the current time. Meaning, your body fat already has created a calorie surplus. So, the more fat you have, the more energy your body has to draw from for basic metabolic functions. Your cardio, you're walking around. Body fat won't fuel workouts. It won't fuel hard training. You need glucose for that. But people with more body fat are walking around with a slight calorie surplus. If your body can tap into body fat stores when you're resting, when you're sleeping, when you're doing your slower cardio, day-to-day activities, you have a surplus already to grow from. All right, and the more of body fat that you have, the easier your body taps into body fat. There's a myth there that people have that when you're really fat, it's hard to lose weight. No, the leaner you are, the harder it is to lose a pound of fat, all right, or a kilogram of fat. The more fat you have, the more readily your body can tap into X amount of calories for fuel from your fat. And that applies to people who are at caloric maintenance, because then they can train using the carbs they consume. They can take some of the protein they consume and use it for building muscle. They have calories available for constructing new tissue if they have enough body fat that they can more easily tap into it. So that works on a sliding scale as well. The fatter you are, the easier it is to gain muscle without overeating, because you've already overeaten. You've already got a fuel source available. The leaner you are, the harder it is to gain muscle without overeating. In fact, you can get to a certain threshold to where it goes the other direction. What do I mean? If someone is down at 7 or 8% body fat and using no drugs, they're not going to gain muscle at caloric maintenance because their body is too deprived. It has no fuel reserves. It doesn't have enough fuel reserves that they can tap into to even help recover from their training. All right, they're simply put, they're going to struggle to gain any muscle mass at all. In fact, they're going to struggle to maintain the muscle mass that they have because their training is going to suffer, their recovery is going to suffer due to lack of fuel reserves. So it goes the other direction at a certain threshold. And that threshold varies from person to person. I can't say, well, if this person, this happens at exactly 9%. You don't know that, but somewhere around 10% or less body fat for men, somewhere around 18, 19% body fat or less for women, you can reach a threshold to where you're getting so lean that gaining muscle itself will become more difficult without overeating and gaining weight again. So it works again on a sliding scale, but someone who's walking around at 30% body fat, 35% body fat, oh yeah, those guys can actually be losing weight while gaining muscle. Why? Because they have such a caloric surplus already available for fuel that if they're just training enough that they're burning through more calories than they eat, their body has a fuel source to help with their recovery, to help with everything else, to help fuel their body when they're resting, so their body is breaking down less tissue proteins. It's burning through less of the things that they need to continue to gain muscle. They have a big padding, they have a big energy sink there. So they can actually, at a certain point, you can go the other direction. Like what I'm saying is sometimes you can stay at maintenance and recomp, but people who can get to a really high body fat, just like the people with the low body fat, will struggle to even hold on to muscle because they can't recover from training. At a certain threshold, people can have so much body fat that they can be losing weight. They can be in a caloric deficit and be slowly gaining muscle just because they have so much extra energy available that it's like they're in a calorie surplus all the time, even when they aren't, even when they're losing weight. So those are two of your biggest factors there. Two of the biggest factors. Now the thing that I will point out, what also works on the sliding scale is going to be the level that you train at, because you've got these two factors here that work. But the other thing is you can also overtrain easier. You can push yourself beyond your maximum recoverable fatigue easier without more food. But you know what? That works on the sliding scale with your body fat as well. Because how much fuel reserve do you have? You can think of your body fat itself, large amounts of extra body fat, as a caloric surplus that your body can use for fuel as well. But again, how much volume you can tolerate is going to be dependent upon a lot of recovery factors, and that will be affected by your leanness and stuff as well. Again, without having a caloric surplus to help you recover from it. So the most important thing I would say to most people is, if you're trying to recomposition, be very, very aware of the fact that without a calorie surplus, your maximum recoverable fatigue, maximum recoverable volume and all that is going to be a bit lower. You need to be aware of that. Don't take programs that push you to the absolute limits in terms of volume, or it will stagnate your muscle growth due to recovery issues, which you're going to be more sensitive to without food. Food and sleep are amazing recovery tools. But when you're not getting a surplus of both, your body will be able to handle less training. And again, the guys who tell you otherwise, who are always lean all the time and train with these ultra high volumes and gain muscle, they're getting a lot of pharmaceutical help with that. All right, they're not just doing that on their own. And that's the point that you need to remember with that too. And remember that even those guys have a sliding scale as far as their recomposition goes based upon their drugs. So the thing to always remember, there is no set number on anything when it comes to gaining muscle without overeating. There is no set point. All of it is a sliding scale as to how hard or how easy it is to do, whether it even becomes the point of so easy that you can even lose weight. versus it becomes so difficult on the other extreme that you struggle to even hold on to muscle without a calorie surplus. That those are the two extremes, but most people are somewhere in between, and it all works on a sliding scale. It's not a flat number. So when the person asks the question, is it possible? Yes, it is possible, but how difficult it's going to be and how much progress you will make will work on a sliding scale of training experience, how much muscle you already have, and how much body fat you're holding. And you only gave me one piece of the equation, and you know what? It's still such a sliding scale, but had you given me more pieces of the equation, I still couldn't easily tell you how much you could expect a recomposition in 6 months or a year, because it's just not that straightforward, unfortunately. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.